Okay, we're back. Hey everyone. Wow, my head is just spinning from Wayne Goodman. Yeah, how about yours?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Were you familiar with some of the stuff he was talking about before?
A little bit.
Yeah. I'm like, oh man, he's got all that Russian stuff, and whoa. So you can go on YouTube and catch Wayne's musical about the Gorbachevs. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So what else has been going on? What a week, huh?
Man, it's been a crazy week.
It has been a crazy week. Yeah.
It's been something. It's been off the hook.
Yeah.
And especially your boy Trump, man, and the whole Cohen situation, man. I was waiting to get you here to hear what you had to say about
Hear
that.
what I have to say about that.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. What do you want? What you?
I mean, what are your feelings on it? Do you feel that this is like they're gonna arrest Trump at the end of 2020, or do you think they're gonna?
No, I think they could be getting there. They could be. I mean, so far I wasn't paying too much attention to the issues because we know he's a sleazebag. We knew all that. But yeah, I mean, they're getting pointed in some good directions. And well, because it's crazy because it was happening while Trump was in Vietnam trying to strike a deal with North Korea. And that was just really crazy timing. Trump met with the leader of North Korea to try and strike a deal, supposedly. And it was the second, so this was going on while all this was happening in Congress. So that's kind of crazy. And at the same time, Trump's buddy Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, is getting nailed for financial violations. So he could be going down too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It has been a crazy, crazy week.
And then the whole thing, did you see the whole thing about Vietnam when he met up with Kim Jong-il, or however you say his name?
Yeah.
And how, I guess the way that they're showing it, the way they show it on Fox, it was making it seem like Trump was doing something, but come to find out he wasn't. Like, he really didn't do much, from what I'm hearing. He didn't really.
Well, yeah, they show. I mean, Fox has better international coverage than the other ones.
Man, I was thinking, okay, the way he was going there talking to him, that they had came to some kind of agreement, but apparently they really haven't came to.
No, they haven't. Trump walked, and they're talking about that.
I know, but it's just the way. Okay, when I remember Obama going there, they didn't cover it.
Obama didn't go there.
I thought he went there to meet with him one time.
No.
You sure?
No, I'm not sure. I don't think.
I thought for sure he did.
We'll look it up.
I think he meant there one time, but it seems like all the presidents go there to try to meet with him. It's like this thing that they always try to meet, whether they talk with him or meet him in person. That it never works.
No.
They don't put footage on it. But with Trump, they put a lot of footage on it to where if you were just watching
because it was a second summit meeting.
Yeah, but they made it the way it looked. I was watching it. They made him look better at like he did more. To me, but
they're just showing pageantry. Well, what I thought was funny was he did a press conference with a whole bunch of foreign reporters, so he couldn't be all disrespectful and crazy like he is to the U.S. reporter. Oh, you watched that?
Yeah, I seen that. Yeah, he was very nice. Even to the ones that weren't that good, like you could tell, like their English wasn't all that great.
Yeah.
You know how Trump usually is.
Well, yeah, he would have.
Trump would have said some crazy.
Yeah, he would have. Oh my God! So you noticed that?
Yeah,
too.
He held it.
Oh my God!
I give him one thing. He's learning a little bit that I can't just be crazy.
Well,
like I normally
yeah. Well, he learned. Yeah, not like he does in the U.S. Because that was funny. I was watching him. It was like, God, he's like a different guy. He's acting normal.
I think he's
Well, no, because he was overseas and because he can't be pulling the same. That's why.
I think he's getting a little bit of pressure, though. I just can't see that he can still keep up how he's been acting without changing a little bit.
Well,
regardless.
I don't know. So far as acting crazy with the press, though, I don't think he, I mean, that's just because he was overseas.
Okay. Well,
that's why he was acting a little bit more
normal.
normal.
I don't know, man. I think
Well, you should listen to Guy and Marie. You know, my friends on the Fox radio show were covering it, and so no, they're getting.
We're gonna change that. It's gonna be called Anna's radio show now.
yeah. I call it. They're like, I love it when you call in. So, you know, so they're Fox, and they had some really good coverage on it today, and with some experts. And what they're saying is that it's better that he left with no deal than a bad deal.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of logic. But speaking of nukes, India and Kashmir are like at odds, and they both have nukes. So really, I mean, when we're looking at scariness and violence in the world, that is something much bigger. So I don't know, man. I mean, to me, and I know there's lots of people that would probably think this is crazy, I just don't see what the big deal is about North Korea. You know, nothing's ever happened.
I think it's more of the fact that people, you know, how he does the nuclear thing, like he keeps testing his. I mean, yeah. I understand it. He hasn't done nothing, and I see that point. But you just don't want it to get to a point where you get too relaxed, and then
it's true.
You know, that's a hard situation. I understand that.
Yeah.
That's like you have a guy testing nukes, and this guy is kind of like a communist kind of guy. Like,
yeah,
he kind of is like technically God to everybody, and so if he decides one day, you know, I just want to bomb this area, I can just do it. I have the stuff, and I can do it. He might try to do it. So I understand their point on that.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, during the break we can look it up because I don't think Obama ever went to North Korea.
Yeah, I thought for sure he did.
Okay,
I swear because I remember. Okay. I think I remember this morning when because Trump tried to clown him.
Yeah.
And Trump was like, I did better than the Obama administration did when they came here. That's what I remember him saying something like that. So I'm assuming they went there once.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. When he went there, I remember Obama going there, but they didn't really publicize it like they're doing with Trump. Like Trump, it's like they're making sure everybody knows he went there.
I just don't remember hearing about North Korea that much when Obama was in office.
Yeah, they didn't talk about it much, but he went there. He talked to Kim Jong-il, and I remember him doing it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he did it in another way. Maybe he didn't actually go there. But I remember it being addressed between him and Obama somehow.
Yeah.
And I'm like this morning, like I said, Trump tried to say, oh, the Obama administration didn't do much. They came and didn't do nothing. And, you know, I got a better...
he got nothing.
And he still got nothing, but he's making it seem like he did something more. I don't know what he did more.
Did you see it when he was asked about Otto Warmbier?
No.
Oh, okay. So Otto Warmbier is this young guy that was imprisoned in North Korea and probably tortured or something.
And he's from here?
Well, he's dead. Okay. Yeah, he was locked up in North Korea, and he was finally released. And there are photos of him. I mean, he was just basically brought home to die.
He was mangled, huh?
Yeah, and so a reporter in the press conference asked Trump about it, and he just was being his crazy ass self because he does this thing. He was saying like, yes, it was terrible. It was terrible what happened to Otto. There were things that couldn't even be described. It's like everybody's there has like seen the footage and stuff. He said that Kim told him he didn't have anything to do with it, and he believes him. What's he gonna? He doesn't give a shit.
What's he gonna do?
Exactly. You know. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Well, last time he was there, Brett Baer, one of the Fox journalists that I think is pretty good, was asking him. I mean, he was trying to get him to address the human rights abuses in North Korea, but no go. Yeah. So he was trying to. So I mean, it's kind of crazy that all this was happening while he was in trying to, all this was happening in Congress.
Right,
Apparently, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did a really good job in the hearing. See, I'm sick of her. I think she needs to like shut up and
kinda said stuff in a way to kind of make it to where we need to see his taxes, but she put it in a way.
She just asked really. She asked really
she did it good. I heard it. I can't do how she did it, but the way she was asking questions about stuff, it was like she was making it to where you have to look at his taxes to make sure he's not doing nothing. It was good the way she did it. I thought it was good.
I was really glad to see her do something like that instead of, talking about her skincare on Instagram.
Right.
And, that's one of the things that's, it's annoying to me because there's a whole lot of new legislators, and she has this thing called the Green New. I mean, she's just like taking ownership of stuff that other people have worked on, and then this was ridiculous. Some young kids were visiting. Senator Dianne Feinstein is getting criticized for telling some kids came to her office and were like getting on her case about climate change and all that, and she basically said that she's been doing this for a long time and she knows what she's doing. I'm like, yeah, man, put those little brats in their place. And people were talking about her being condescending. Like, what the fuck? They're kids. They should be there to learn. It's like, you shouldn't be. Who the hell? They should not be speaking to anybody like that, and certainly not a U.S. senator. She was like trying to explain how legislation works. So I'm like, oh man, bunch of little brats. But yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe this will get him. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's been. And then we have Brexit, so that's happening too. So yeah, it has been a crazy ass week.
Yes, it has.
And it's crazy in other parts of the world too.
Yep, everywhere.
Yes, yeah. So last night when I visited Duck Soup, we were getting to some previews about the show today, and so let's get to Nigeria. We've been talking about the Nigerian elections, and President Buhari was reelected, and we kind of knew that was going to happen, but there were questions. The vote was postponed for a week, and we were speaking about this last week, and so that decreased voter turnout possibly, and because the turnout was a record low at just 35%. Like, whoa, that's like the US. And unfortunately, the opposition candidate is Atiku Abubakar, and he is rejecting Buhari's victory. And he's claiming that because, so like Buhari is more popular in the north, and there were high turnouts in the north, even though there were Boko Haram attacks there, and some really scary assaults on people at the polling stations, and destruction of voting machines. I mean, these people they just want to be destructive. That's it. They just want to destroy. And so that is the complaint, basically. And so he's kind of saying that turnout was better at places where it should have been worse, and so sadly it just seems like a lot of people in Nigeria just didn't feel like it would make much of a difference. So we are going to be, we'll see. So I was going back to so in the 1980s, we've talked about this before, Buhari was a military ruler in Nigeria, and he was elected president in 2015, and he was the first opposition candidate to defeat an incumbent and win the presidency. So if this re-election all goes smoothly, I guess he will still be sticking around. So in Sudan, which we've also been following, Omar al-Bashir shut down the government and declared a state of emergency, and that has not stopped the protesters. They've even gained momentum. He's banned protests and public gathering, but people are still out there and they're facing real abuse, and they are not backing down. So that is exciting and concerning, and that's real bravery. So okay, and then in Uganda, we talked before about, remember the social media tax?
Yeah.
Yeah, taxes were imposed on the use of networking sites and on money transactions using mobile phones. A daily levy introduced in July to tame idle talk online and raise revenue it affects more than 60 online platforms. So unfortunately, that seems to be working. People have abandoned social media, and that's just really unfortunate, because that is what is driving a lot of these protests. And there's been crackdowns in Sudan on social media, but people have been communicating using like VPNs, using like private networks. So that's what's going on. In Uganda. Like, I was just reading an interview with an Eritrean journalist, and Eritrea is one of the most, as we know, the worst countries in the world, and for press freedom. And so I was reading an anonymous interview with an Eritrean journalist who actually lives in Britain and has a Facebook page, and that's real dear to my heart, because that's how I've started some of my projects, has been on Facebook pages. And he was actually not even that critical of his government, because he had some loyalty to it, but now he's getting a little bit more critical and really risking his life. So yeah, that's what happens. That's okay. And in Liberia, they are on the trail of those millions of dollars in Liberia. So okay, I got my Congo and Sudan mixed up. So okay, yeah, police have been firing tear gas. Okay, that was like a double thing. Okay, and in Italy, we're still having a lot of problems with migration. Now the claims by trafficked women have been rejected. So, and then the number of racially motivated attacks have risen sharply in Italy, tripling between 2017 and 2018, when the far right league entered government. So it's not really too much of a surprise that violence has been increasing in Italy with their constant anti everything, basically. I was reading an interview with Sebastian Kurz, the the Prime Minister of Austria. So he's the guy we've talked about before. He's the youngest head of state in the world. He's in his early 30s, and he's another one of the ones that's really trying to keep out migrants. And he says he's not trying to keep people out, but they just want to choose who's going to be able to come in. So yeah, Trump loves this guy. So another interesting thing that happened is, I've talked before about it today, is it's the 100th birthday of Sir Brian Urquhart. And I've talked about him before. He was third in command at the United Nations. And so with him being 100 years old, I want to talk a little bit about his life. Okay, so somebody that's born in 1919, so that's post World War I. So he was growing up in the 1930s, and his family didn't have much money, and they were watching the rise of the Nazis. And so he has a story, and his family, Urquhart became interested in the United Nations because his aunts had been interested in the League of Nations. And the League of Nations was something that the world tried to put together after World War I that the U.S. did not sign on to because Woodrow Wilson fucked up. So his generation, Urquhart's generation, his aunts believed in like Eleanor Roosevelt had been interested. They believed in the League of Nations. So even when he was young, he really had this idea, this commitment about trying to bring some world standards of decency. So some way for the world to try and have some accountability. So here's what things were like for Sir Brian Urquhart in the 1930s. He went to Westminster School and was left with the ingrained idea of the concept of service. Okay, so Sir Brian Urquhart. The British public school system, because the system was designed to staff a very large empire run by a small offshore island. Because remember, back then, this was when Britain owned the world. I mean, the idea was that unless you were some sort of genius, like a musician or a painter or a poet or something, you should concentrate on the idea of serving. And it wasn't a priggish idea. It seems to be not a bad idea, really. And I think we were very much brought up to think that unless we displayed some fantastic genius for something, we would be lucky to be in public service or go into the army. These were the main sources of public service. I wanted to be a civilian. And I think it wasn't a bad idea, although bad luck on all those people we were going to rule over in the colonies. So you trained a whole group of people who would do that. But then Sir Brian was part of the United Nations with Ralph Bunche and Dag Hammarskjöld and worked to take down colonialism. And he was a big part of that. And so, so in 1937, he would have been like 18. We had at school once the son of the German ambassador in London. And so what my single most successful political effort was von Ribbentrop's son took to arriving at Westminster in two plum-colored Mercedes-Benz motor cars. So the object of the two cars was so that the two chauffeurs can get out and make a triumphal arch and say Heil Hitler. Like basically, they're doing the Heil Hitler salute. So Urquhart, I got the boys who lived outside the school to arrive 20 minutes earlier, and we used to greet this every morning with tremendous laughters and cries and whistles and everything. It got out of hand and became a famous event in London, and I got summoned to the principal's office, and I was told that it was an insult to the friendly power. So I had a little bit of trouble talking to the headmaster about the Nazis being a friendly power. But in the end, I realized that he always got everything wrong. And I said, "Do you realize that the German embassy cars are painted the color of the royal family's cars, which are all purple?" He said, "My dear boy, why didn't you tell me before?" and set off an absolute sizzler to the ambassador, saying this was outrageous. Oh my God. So that's kind of an example of like figuring out how to get shit done, which Urquhart was very good at. And then he went and served in World War II and was with the first soldiers to enter Bergen-Belsen, the concentration camp. And they apprehended the Nazis that were still there and had them start digging graves. And just really, really terrifying. And so then he went and helped start the United Nations and worked with the United Nations. And so I've talked about this before, about his generation, because it was people that went through World War II and really believed that they could make changes, and they were seeing communism and trying to go up against that. So I mean, he's definitely a real heroic person to me. So okay, want to take another break?
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, we'll be right back.